voted over the weekend, they were like, Carol voted for the first time.
Pursuant to state law, we are required to test the voting equipment. So every election cycle, we test every machine that we use.
All right, it's 5:30. We're going to go ahead and plug the machine in. This is the tabulator that we use on election day. It's called an ICP, an image cast precinct. So
that process is lengthy. Each tabulator that goes out to the precincts is tested, as well as the absentee equipment and then handicap equipment that also goes out to the precincts.
Do all the municipalities use the same machines, or?
In Wayne County.
Yeah, in Wayne County and for the majority of Michigan, there are very few counties that have either HART or ES&S. Actually, is there only one that has ES&S? So it's the majority Dominion, some HART, and then ES&S is the other vendor as well.
And which are these?
These are Dominion. We've been using these since 2017. So they have been with us for a while.
In my 10 years, in 2013, we did have a candidate attend who obviously was a resident or voter as well. But in 2016, we had one resident who attended the public accuracy test.
There are memory cards in here. There's a seal number on the seals, and they're recorded. They're recorded in our office. They're recorded on the poll book. So on election day, the workers do have to check them to make sure everything matches and that nothing was tampered with. There is also a seal on the modem door. We no longer modem, but there is still a seal to show that it's locked and nobody's gotten into it.
And why do you think very few people come to view this accuracy test?
They may not be aware that it happens, but we do post the notice of the test in the local paper. It's posted at the bulletin board outside of City Hall. This time we stressed that it was happening. We announced it several times during council meetings, so I don't know if that helped people attend. So I think it's just the fact that voters are not aware that this does happen, and that is why they do not attend. But in order to understand the process, I think it is important for people to attend things like this.
These are test ballots. So we have to run through every scenario that might happen on election day to make sure that the machine is reading it correctly. So there are 84 ballots in here, and the first 10 are various scenarios that I'll walk through as we insert them in the machine.
I have a ballot, I'm a voter. How does that vote transform into a certified election result?
So when you cast your vote at the end of the night, once everyone is done voting, the machine has memory cards. Memory cards come back to my office. They are read into a machine, and those are transmitted to the county. Those results are verified by the County Board of Canvassers and then certified. So, once you put that vote in the machine, everything is tabulated. At the end of the night, the results come out. They're unofficial until everything is taken downtown, being that memory card, tapes that come from the machine. Everything is gone through, make sure everything is accurate, and then those results are published, and those are the certified results once they're certified by the County Board of Canvassers.
The next ballot is a stray mark test. So if you are working on your ballot and you make a swipe of your pen, we want to make sure it's not counting it as a vote if you make a mark in any of these open areas. So you'll see here that there are lines near the voting areas, but not in them. We want to make sure that they're not counting them as a vote. So when I put this through, it's going to say, warning, blank ballot detected, and that's correct because we didn't actually vote for anything. And it's saying, warning, there is a blank ballot. And again, that voter can have it spit back out and try again, or they can hit cast because it is their right to vote a blank ballot if they choose so.
Okay, what happens, because this has happened to me a couple times where the machine did not take my ballot and the poll worker kept saying, well, put it back in, put it back in. What is happening there?
So if you had a jam, so if you put a ballot in, and I'm gonna try to recreate it with this one to see if I can get it to do it. If you put it in at like a weird angle, it might spit it back out and say, there was a jam because it has to read it going flat in.
Okay, are all the ballots in the same? Because the top of ours, where in our precinct, they tear that off.
Yep, so
Okay.
the stub is not on here. When we do
Okay.
these test ballots, we have stubs as well, and they'll say test, and we rip them off before they go through the
Okay.
machine. So if you look closely, there is that perforation on there.
Okay.
Where we rip them
So
off.
again, what's happening when my ballot has to be?
It could just be that you put it in at a little bit of an angle or you kind of jerked it a little bit And that's the machine just saying, hey, pull it out. Might be a jam. We might have read it wrong. You pull it out and then you just put it in straight.
In the 2020 election, there were a lot of conspiracy theories about the voting machines, particularly about the Dominion voting machines, which are the ones that are used in Wayne County and many counties in Michigan. How has that affected your work as a clerk? Are you receiving calls from voters who have concerns about the machines? How do you address that?
We did receive a lot of concerns in 2020, especially after the election. We received multiple phone calls from individuals, usually the day after election. It goes from chaos to just complete crickets around our office, and we were still receiving calls all the way through December asking questions, which a voter has every right to do. They have every right to understand the process, but they also have to understand these machines have been in use since 2017.
It also will never take the incorrect precinct. So if somebody votes at precinct 2 and they try to put their ballot in precinct 3's tabulator, it's going to always reject it. It's never going to give you the option to cast. It's going to constantly spit it out.
Throughout Michigan and the country, election officials like yourself have reported an increase in threats. Have you been on the receiving end of any threats from folks?
Not personally. We did receive a lot of hate mail in 2020 when the Secretary of State sent out applications for absentee ballots to every registered voter due to COVID. And we did receive a lot of them returned with foul language, things directed at us where we didn't send the applications out and telling us who they're voting for and they want to vote in person. No, that okay, you know what I mean? So nothing personally, thank God, but I do worry. I worry about my staff. I worry about my workers out at the precincts. I worry about my family, seeing the other election officials, their families getting, threats and everything.
All right, so once the last voter has voted, so if somebody is in line by 8 o'clock, they do still have the right to vote. Doesn't matter how long we have to stay there until they do it. Once they are done, that ballot goes through the machine. They then verify that everything balances, so they will look to see if we issued 83 ballots, that this screen says 83 ballots, and then they will proceed with closing the polls. And it asks, are you sure? They'll say yes, and then it will close the polls for them. Once it does that, the results will start printing.
Do you have any observations that misinformation about the election process has maybe deterred people in Taylor from voting because they don't think their vote's going to count?
We've had a few who have canceled their registrations. We've had a few that have gone from voting absentee to I don't trust that process, I want to vote in person, which that they have every right to do. So they wanted to be removed off of the permanent absentee list, which, I get that, but it's not been a huge amount, but there's been a few, and that's disheartening because I want people to vote.
This is, I assume, your first time attending a public accuracy test?
Yes.
Does seeing how the process work, does it make you feel more confident that the election is going to be secure and that the machine's going to count the votes accurately?
I just came to vote for him, and I said,
I feel that they're doing everything that they can, but up the chain, down the chain, whatever way it goes, do I feel that? No, I don't feel confident. No.
What are your reservations?
I just feel that there's a lot of people out there that know a lot more about this situation and that there can be some funny business. I don't trust it, no, and I am concerned. Yeah.
Can you just spell out a little bit more explicitly, like where in the process you think
I don't know because I don't know those processes.
We are being watched. There are steps involved. There are board of canvassers that certify the results. There's steps in place where we're all held to a certain standard, and individuals need to trust that process because it's there for a reason and it's worked for years before all of this. Some people, you'll never change their mind because unfortunately we live in a society, and this is just not from 2020, this is my prior experience prior to 2020, people can't accept loss. And when they lose, they automatically go to the other side cheated.
here we are going to start to look at the tape, and I'm just going to show you guys. So the results were 0 when we started, and they will check that, and they will have signed down at the bottom. There are signature spots, so they would have signed that to say they verified it.
Can the public view that printout tape to see who signed it and verified it, or?
I mean, in theory, well, no, the poll watchers aren't near the machines. So that's a question I'd want to ask the county about. That's why we have bipartisan election inspectors, because they check it. So there's a balance of Democrats and Republicans, or as much as we can get a balance, and they are the ones checking it. The county also checks it to make sure. You could FOIA them for sure afterward, but on election day, I don't know about you touching the actual stuff, if that makes sense. Oh, yeah. So like, don't go up to it and start pulling on the receipt. They're gonna stop you.
Tampering with an election machine is illegal, so we are prepared for that. If they touch the machine, the authorities will be called. I will not tolerate anything, and that will be relayed to the workers. These machines, the voter is to vote. If they have to push the button to accept or reject, or send their ballot back out if they make a mistake, that is the only time they should be touching the equipment. If anyone tries to unplug a machine, they have a battery backup, so it's gonna run on battery backup until we plug it back in. Or if there's, say, a power outage, we'll get them a generator or whatever we have to do. But we're prepared. That has been discussed with my staff. I know that there's been talk in the news media about a candidate telling people, if you see things wrong, unplug a machine. I'm going to tell you right now, if you see things wrong, do not unplug the machine. Contact the clerk's office and we will take care of it. So my plan is on election day, if we hear of anything, is to dispatch the police right out. I'm not even going to put my election workers in a situation where they're going to tell the person to back away, but they're not going to confront the person. We'll let the police do that. We follow the laws. I'm a rule follower, 100%.
Watch Beyond the Ballot Box, presented by the Detroit Free Press and One Detroit, Thursday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. on Detroit Public Television.